Yo, what is up, guys? Joker bringing you another video for Path of Exile 2. This time going over the State of Early Access update post that we received a couple of days ago. I'm going to apologize in advance for shitty audio. I don't know what's going on. I've been messing with my microphone. I've been messing with my Wave XLR. I've been testing a bunch of stuff. And for whatever reason, my audio decided that it wanted to start having some weird gargly noise like I'm peaking my microphone, even though I'm literally not. So, I might need a new microphone. That sucks. But let's go over this post, right? The State of Early Access post that we got from GGG a couple of days ago essentially says nothing. It is literally just a recap. So up here it says we've been in early access for 10 weeks and we've had 8 patches and 31 hot fixes, including a bunch of bug fixes and like quality of life and blah blah blah, right? And then they break it all down, interestingly enough. The reason why I say interestingly enough is because majority of these updates we received in the 0.1.1 patch that was 2 weeks ago. So they're essentially just recapping what they changed 2 weeks ago. So very curious what the point of this post was, because there's not one piece of useful information in here, but I mean, what are you going to do, right? So yeah, that's essentially what they did. They're recapping it, and then they tell us the most aggravating thing possible. The biggest problems, right? This wouldn't have been an issue if there was any indication of a future plan, right? So the biggest problems, what are the biggest problems in Path of Exile 2 right now? Well, I can tell you everything, right? Everything is essentially a pretty big problem right now. Nothing's really where it needs to be or where people want it. So the biggest problems in Path of Exile 2 are kind of everything. Everything is the problem right now, and everything does need a lot of work. It's a good thing it's in early access, and there's a lot of time for these problems to be fixed. But then they explain what anyone who's played the game has said. They go, major balance issues with many player skills and builds, both too high and too low. So essentially, what they're saying is the balance in the game right now is shit. You're either one-shotting bosses or you're doing 0 damage. There's not really any builds in between that are viable in Path of Exile 2, right? You're either doing no damage or you're doing all of the damage, which just stating the issue isn't really helpful, right? We're well aware of this issue, so you should be well aware of this issue too. It's the feedback that we have given, but then they go on to say, not enough character build options, including build defining uniques. Once again, this is a line, I swear, directly taken from a content creator and the community, is that there's not enough, but we understand that the game is in early access. Well, at least the majority of us understand the game is in early access, and we're missing like half of the weapons, half of the skill gems, and like 2/3 of the ascendancies, right? So we're missing a lot of content. So we're aware the build diversity isn't going to be that great. That's why it's never been a main complaint, because we knew that it was coming, right? Or at the very least, we assumed that there was going to be a lot to come, because we're still missing like 13 ascendancies or something. We're missing like 5 or 6 weapons. We're missing so much. Like we're missing like what, 5, 6 tabs of skill gems. So like we know we're missing a lot of content, and this isn't even including content that's going to be added with the leagues, right? Because every time there's a good league, well, core PoE, right? Every time there was a good league, they brought it core, And so essentially, PoE1 is what I mean by core PoE. PoE1, every time there was a really well received league, they made its mechanics go core and integrated them directly into the game. That's why PoE1's in game and all of its systems are so complex. I just hit my microphone. Is because it's essentially years of content smashed together. That's why there's so much to do, right? So a lot of people understood early access game not gonna have as much. Next thing they state, end game progression balance is off. Really? You don't say. Is it because of the fact that some people farmed for citadels for like hundreds of hours? Is it the fact that there's no scaling in the maps besides from map bosses and the pinnacle bosses? Like the bosses are the only thing that you can fill scaling in maps. I swear, a white mob in a tier 16 map and a white mob in a tier 1 map, they kind of feel like they have the same amount of HP, and they feel like they do the same amount of damage. Like the scaling is fucking bad, right? Let alone the progression, which is bad. A bunch of people couldn't sustain waystones, but not enough cool things to find end game. Once again, this wasn't really a problem that the community had. This is a problem that we brought up, but we were aware that it was going to be improved. A lot of PoE1 players, the end game is everything, right? End game is 90% of PoE, right? So we were well aware that an early access game would not have a high emphasis on end game because shit, we don't even have the full campaign, right? How are we going to have a fully fleshed out end game when we don't even have a campaign? Now, some people are going to argue that the end game is the majority of the content, so they should prioritize that, but I'm not going to get into that argument. But the reason why I'm annoyed is because they state the most fucking obvious issues that everyone has known about for a while. And then they essentially say, we want a bunch of people to come to play 0.2. Okay. Let's go ahead and just ignore that fucking line. And then they say, we have no idea when it's coming out. The original plan was a major patch every couple of months. Okay, well, in 2 weeks, Path of Exile 2 will be 3 months old, essentially, right? Roughly 3 months old in a couple of weeks. And we really don't have any major balance patches. Originally, you told us 6 to 12 months, and we're already going on 3. And like I just stated, we're missing a lot of stuff. And if it is true that you just moved staff from PoE2 back to PoE1 to make a temp league because you realized you never should have moved them in the first place, then the timeline is just going to get fucked more. So that's essentially what this post is telling me. Is I'm not going to get a 3.26 until probably May. Generously. Because 3.26 isn't even going to start production until after 0.2. And as of right now, the soonest 0.2 will be is probably another 2 weeks. So thanks, GGG. That's awesome. That's why I'm kind of annoyed at this point because the last 3 posts have been absolute dog shit, right? They had the post going over the fact that they moved people from PoE 1 to PoE 2, even though they said it was going to be 2 separate teams and it wouldn't be an issue. Guess what? Turned out to be an issue. So they made a second post saying, hey guys, we kind of fucked up. We moved some staff back so they can throw together some league event for you. That way PoE players have at least something to do. And then we get this third post about Path of Exile 2, which is literally just a recap of everything that's happened over the past couple of weeks, which is just wild because majority of this stuff only happened 2 weeks ago. So I don't get the point of this for them to essentially say, this is what happened in the past. We know we have a lot of issues. We have no time frame for the future. I'm I'm sorry. I don't get that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna be playing the Legacy of Pharesia event that comes out, which is essentially where they're reworking a bunch of ascendancies, right? 19 new ascendancies. This is probably gonna be in a couple of weeks, hopefully. Um, it looks pretty cool. Twitch chat pointed out that a lot of this is just reused assets, right? So it's nothing like new or like super exciting. Like, don't get your hopes too up. Don't get your hopes too high. A lot of the nodes are essentially things that were stolen from either monsters or pre-existing assets, right? Except for they threw them onto an ascendancy tree now. Like the perfect example is the Harbinger, where apparently none of this makes any fucking sense, right? These Harbinger words are actually words because you can actually read the Harbinger language. Apparently, there is like a codex that does translate for like the abilities they had and stuff like that, right? And that's what like correlated into their name. But people broke it down and realized that they literally just copy and pasted the Harbinger text into these boxes. They make no fucking sense and they have no correlation to what the skill actually does. It's just put there to essentially look pretty, right? It's for the aesthetics. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna end this video now. Once again, I apologize for the audio. I'm gonna continue on trying to get it fixed. I don't know what's wrong, but hopefully I can get it fixed here relatively shortly. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.